When we think of the First World War, images of mud-soaked trenches, endless shelling, and the horrors of chemical warfare dominate our imagination. But beyond the chaos, soldiers had to face another relentless enemy: survival. The front lines were not just battlefields, they were environments of constant danger, disease, and deprivation. Supplies were often scarce, and medics could only do so much. What kept soldiers alive wasn't always official equipment, it was ingenuity. Many soldiers created improvised kits, small collections of essential items cobbled together from whatever they could find, that literally saved lives in the trenches. Today, we're going to explore these kits, uncover the practical wisdom behind them, and show how anyone interested in history, bushcraft, or survival can learn from these resourceful practices. Soldiers made do with what was at hand because supply lines couldn't be trusted. The trenches of World War I were long, muddy, and exposed to the elements. Official rations, medical supplies, and protective gear were often delayed or lost in transit. Soldiers quickly realized that waiting for orders or expecting resupplies was a gamble with their lives. They began assembling small kits with items scavenged from the battlefield, issued gear, or even personal possessions. These improvised kits typically included essentials like bandages made from torn uniforms, small containers for disinfecting water, basic tools for opening rations, and compact fire-starting materials. The principle was simple. A lightweight, portable set of tools and supplies could make the difference between life and death in situations where formal support was unavailable. Today, the lesson is clear. Survival depends less on having the perfect gear and more on understanding what you truly need and how to repurpose materials. First aid was the core of survival in the trenches. In a place where shrapnel, bullets and trench foot were constant threats, first aid was paramount. Soldiers learned to improvise bandages and dressings using torn shirts, socks, or even paper soaked in alcohol. Some created small pouches with disinfectants, painkillers, and homemade splints, often stored in a tin or a pouch sewn into their uniforms. This is directly applicable for modern survivalists or, history enthusiasts practicing bushcraft. You don't need commercial first aid kits to understand the essentials. Practicing how to sterilize materials, create improvised bandages, and apply basic wound care from natural or found resources is, truly invaluable. For example, in a backyard scenario, cotton cloth and alcohol can serve as bandages and antiseptic. Twigs or sticks wrapped in fabric can form splints. Understanding these fundamentals gives you a practical skill set while also connecting you to historical methods. Fire and warmth were improvised when standard supplies failed. Trench life was cold and wet, really quite miserable. Soldiers often carried small metal containers to hold combustible materials, such as shavings from wood crates, leftover paper, or even small strips of cloth soaked in oil. These items could be ignited to cook food, boil water, or provide a few minutes of heat in a cramped dugout. The ingenuity lay in portability. Kits were designed to be compact, so soldiers could carry fire-starting materials in a pocket or sewn pouch, ready for emergencies. Today, enthusiasts can replicate this by assembling a small survival kit with tinder and kindling that fits in a pocket or a small tin. Learning to create a controlled flame with minimal resources not only teaches historical practices, but also, enhances practical survival skills in modern contexts. Now, another essential principle of these improvised kits was, versatility. You see, small knives could be used to cut bandages, open rations, carve wooden tools, or even defend against small threats. Tin containers, on the other hand, served as storage, cooking vessels, or even as improvised water filters. And things like safety pins, wire and string were incorporated to mend clothing, secure equipment, or, create simple traps. It really was all about making the most out of every single item. Modern practitioners, I reckon, can really take this lesson to heart. When you're assembling a kit, whether it's for bushcraft, camping, or just emergency preparedness, you ought to choose items that serve multiple functions. For example, a metal cup can boil water, cook food, and carry items. String, it can be used to build traps, secure gear, or help construct shelter. By thinking like a First World War soldier, you learn to maximize every item's potential and at the same time minimize weight or bulk in your kit. But, the true strength of the improvised kit during the Great War wasn't really the contents, it was the soldier's knowledge. Knowing which plants could provide water or medicinal properties, how to purify contaminated water, how to treat common trench ailments, and how to improvise a shelter was honestly more important than any physical object. In a way, soldiers carried knowledge just as they carried bandages or knives. This principle is, truly timeless. These days, anyone interested in survival, bushcraft, or even historical reenactment really ought to study not just the gear, but the methods behind it all. Getting hands-on, experimenting in your own backyard, or maybe a local patch of wilderness, practicing water purification, fire starting, and shelter construction, builds the kind of knowledge that kits alone simply can't provide. The real key is the combination of materials and practical skills. That's what makes survival genuinely reliable. Improvised kits, always fostered independence and self-reliance. In the end, these kits were more than just a collection of objects. They truly represented a mindset. Soldiers who took the initiative to prepare, repurpose and improvise were far more likely to survive, and importantly, help their comrades too. These kits encouraged independence and problem-solving under pressure, qualities that are still just as important today for bushcraft enthusiasts or, honestly, anyone interested in hands-on historical study. By studying and applying the methods of these improvised kits, we gain, a real window into how people manage to endure extreme conditions with hardly any resources. It's a powerful reminder that ingenuity, observation and adaptability are just as critical as any sort of physical preparation. The improvised First World War kit shows us that survival isn't about fancy equipment or high-tech gear. It's about resourcefulness, creativity, and a solid understanding of the essentials. By repurposing materials, carrying versatile tools, and developing practical skills, those soldiers managed to thrive in some of the harshest environments imaginable. If you enjoyed this little exploration of First World War ingenuity, do make sure to subscribe to Backyard Wisdom for more historical insights, survival strategies, and practical lessons from the past. And, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survivalists, because learning from the trenches teaches us not just how to survive, but really how to thrive with what we have.